course, we were mainly focused on SRAM and its IOs. Now we'll focus towards more of DRAM and maybe flash, I guess. So look at different kind of memory now.
Okay. So what we've done in the first part of this courses, we have kind of gotten a good in-depth understanding of what an SRAM is. Now, in-depth will not mean that you can call yourself an expert and that the mid-semester exam results will tell you. But in-depth means that at least we have covered a wide range of topics linked to SRAMs. We have covered the SRAM cell, we have covered the periphery of the SRAMs, we have covered the address decoding and many aspects of SRAMs. And why did we cover them in this detail for SRAMs and not for any other memory? Because it is common for all other memories. Okay. Now, as we move ahead, we will move into the other directions. Like SRAMs, as we already know, is only a small part of the entire memory ecosystem. So we will first look at the remaining part of the memory ecosystem. So in today's class, we will look at memory hierarchy, cache subsystems. Okay. And then once we look at the cache subsystem, we will understand that okay, अब DRAM भी memory के अंदर memory के साथ हम जोड़ना शुरू हो गए. Now DRAMs is the next topic that we will look at, and after that we will look at NVM memories, and we will close this course with testing of memories. So how to test memories, what are the testability features, what are testability features, what are other features like safety, security, and all those things. So we will close the course with those aspects. Okay. And in between, for the NVM part, we will also have guest lectures. So we have Kalyan from Micron, Hyderabad, who will be talking to you about NVM cells, NVM memory, and so on. So we may also have Vikas, who will talk about charge pumps and level shifters. So we will have some guest speakers when we come to the NVM stage. Is the voice breaking for others also, or only for Shubham?
No, sir, it's fine.
Okay. So that is how the course is expected to span out going further, and that is what I meant when I said that we will be changing directions. Now we are no longer only looking at SRAMs. Now we will start to look at the overall big picture of memory hierarchy, and then we will look at other components like DRAMs, then NVMs, and then in a composite way, what are the testability features, how are they tested, and so on. Okay. So whatever we have learned till now, if you have missed a lecture despite the mid-semester exam or something, if you feel jittery on any one part of the course, I would say review that again, because now we will once we are looking into DRAMs, I will simply suggest like we used to do this in SRAMs, we just do it differently in DRAMs. So we will not cover in equal detail now. We will, because we've done in detail already. Now we will go with more like equivalence. Okay, we did it like that over there. Now equivalently we do it slightly differently over here, and so on. Okay. So if there is some aspects that you would want to review again, please do review those lectures again. Additionally, we will have our first project presentation, I think next week, most probably next Friday. We will see. We will see if it needs to be on Wednesday or Friday or Saturday, whichever way you like it. But we will have it next week, and even the NVM lectures that I was talking about. The NVM lecture by Kalyan would most probably be on 31st of March. That's a Wednesday, and that too in the evening from 4 to 7. Okay, so please block that thing in your calendar already. I will come back to you with the schedule for Vikas's lecture, but for Kalyan, the introduction to NVM and part, the lecture will be on 31st of March, so you can block your calendar right away. Okay, so so Swapnil, what do you mean by next Saturday?
For the presentation, I was saying.
Kalyan's lecture.
for the
Oh,
presentation.
no, for your presentations. Yeah, we will
Yes.
work with the TAs and
Sure, sure,
ensure
sure.
that,
Yeah,
because
I was just.
the TAs are also doing that course on Saturday that they have to do with me. So it
Hmm.
may happen that they are themselves not available on Saturday. Okay, so it may happen that way. So the project presentations, I will not be the first project presentation I will not be taking. It will be the TAs who will be taking the first project presentation. That is the way in all my courses. Okay, the first project
Sure,
presentation is handled by the TAs. So it will be on their availability and their convenience that we will have it. Okay.
sure, sure.
Yeah. So we can try to make it next Saturday, which means that I will have to shift my other class on Wednesday. That will be tricky again because there's a completely different set of students who are who are involved there. Okay, but I will see. We will see. Okay. Now coming to today's class, we will be covering cache subsystem today, and this is a picture that you may have already seen. We also reviewed a memory hierarchy kind of stuff in the first or second lecture of this course, where we said that very close to the CPU, you know, directly interacting with the CPU, operating at the same frequency as the CPU frequency, we have the L1 cache, the level 1 cache, which is an SRAM. Then we also talked about the fact that there could also be main memory, which could be directly connected with the level 1 cache, or there could be a level 2 cache in between. And that main memory is the DRAM. Okay. And then once some stuff needs to be stored permanently, we need to talk about non-volatile memories, which are the hard disks, and that is how the processor or the system operates. Okay. So why do you think there is this need for this hierarchy of memory, and why is there the need of this cache, and why can't we just directly operate with the DRAM? We've already discussed that, but I want to hear it from you again.
So, since we can only incorporate the smaller memories near the processor, and because smaller the memory, faster it is. And in case, since we wanted to work at the frequency of processor, and also we do not need all the data at all the time. So I can store very small amount of data in the cache and work on that data only or the instructions.
So what Dagandeep is saying that because uh, we want to operate the memory that is interfacing with the CPU at the same frequency as the CPU, we cannot have a very large memory. Am I right, Gagandeep? That is what you wanted to say?
Yes.
Hmm. And then there is some concept of less amount of data required during the operation of a program, and not the entire data. So we can actually have a smaller memory interfacing with the processor. So any other ideas, any other responses?
So moreover, to reduce the operation time between that CPU and the memory, we just want to build a small memory on the CPU itself, so as to just increase this that speed. Basically, moreover, the focus is on the increasing the speed so that it matches with the frequency of that CPU only.
So speed. Okay. Okay. So now what has happened is, now this is a very old chart. Look at the timeline. Look at the timeline. Very old chart, but even then it had started to become evident that while the CPU speed was increasing very fast, the memory speed was not. So when the Intel processor, the first Intel Pentium processor came, for example, already the processor was operating at a high frequency, and the DRAM was limiting the overall speed of the processor. And it is to fill this performance gap between the CPU and the DRAM that we had to introduce the L1 cache in between. Okay. So memory speed, is important to be matched with the processor speed, because there are lots of instructions like load and store instructions in the processor or whenever a processor operates, and therefore it is important that when a load instruction comes or a store instruction comes, the memory should be able to respond promptly. There is also a law called Amdahl's law, which says that even if you increase the processor's performance, if you do not speed the memory, it will not improve the overall experience of the user or the throughput of the design much. Okay. And then the second part, as also Gagandeep mentioned, that typically when you run a program, locations that are close together in the address space tend to be referenced over and over again, or tend to be referenced closer in time to also. So that is one aspect, spatial locality. Then also that at any given point of time, you're running 1, 2, okay, if you are a freak, then even 20 programs in simultaneously. But then if you're running 20 programs, I'm sure your CPU or your computer would have, or your phone would have more than 100 apps there, if you're running so many of them in parallel. So only the programs that are active, only their information needs to be in the memory that the processor is accessing. Other programs which are not active, their information need not be stored in the memory that interacts with the processor. So combining these two aspects, that speed is important and that locality of references is also there, the concept of cache memory was enabled, so to say. So what are cache memories? They are relatively small SRAM memories located physically close to the processor. SRAMs have low access time, so they are fast. And by putting them physically close to the processor, we also reduce the wire delay. Is that okay? Any questions still here?
Yes, sir.
Great. So now, another very important aspect linked to cache memories is, or cache hierarchy is, that whatever is there in the, let us say, L1 cache, that same information should also be available in the L2 cache. That information should also be available in the L3 cache, or obviously the main memory. Okay, so data at any given level of hierarchy must be contained in all levels below that in the hierarchy. Okay, so that when I have to remove some information from the small memory which is down there, I'm not worried that my data is lost, because I have already ensured that it is available in the L2 cache or the next level of cache already. Okay, so this is one property which is critical to right operation of cache hierarchy. This becomes all the more important because or all the more important when we have multiple processors, multiple CPUs sharing the same memory, and we need to have coherence of all the different L1 caches that a L2 cache may be supporting, or so on. Okay. So how does the cache work? Yes.
Sir, in the previous slide it was written virtual memory. So sir, वो virtual memory का यहाँ पे क्या मतलब है?
Virtual memory. So you done a course on operating systems ever, Anuj?
No, sir.
Okay. So operating systems में क्या होता है? There is, for example, there is a 32-bit address bus, है ना? You have a 32-bit processor, so the operating system will give an addressing of 32 bits. Now, in reality, your L1 cache is only 1K words, or let us say 16K words. So the number of address bits that you needed were much lesser. But even then, the processor would give you a 32-bit address. In fact, that is what we will also look at just now, how to match virtual memory with L1 cache or L2 cache. But so the actual address space that a processor can address is very, very large. and that is what is called as virtual memory. There may not be a physical memory associated with that large an address space. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So you will get more concepts in the computer architecture course. You done that or not yet?
Yes, sir. I have done that.
So they must have discussed about these virtual memory concepts in the course. No?
Sir, I don't think so. Actually, this virtual memory concept was discussed.
Okay. So typically operating systems and computer architecture courses talk about virtual memory in a lot of detail because they're not physical memory. We're not covering them in this course. Okay. We're covering only physical memories in this course.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now let us say that there is this 32-bit address that the processor gave. But your cache had lesser number of address locations. Obviously, you said आपको तो छोटी memory लगानी है L1 cache. So what does that mean? That means that I have to see if the address that has been sent by the processor, is it available in my cache or not? So what is done is we have what is called as a tag memory. What does the tag consume, or what does the tag contain? Tag contains the 32-bit address of the location from where this data in the L1 cache was brought from. So 32-bit address of the you may say virtual memory space or the main memory, wherever you place that original data, wherever you brought that original data from into the L1 cache, that address is contained in the tag. So what happens? The tag of the CPU and the tag that is stored in the memory are compared. And if the answer is yes, we say, okay, I have the data that we want. If the answer is no, then I say, oh, there is a miss. The data is not available in my cache. I have to go to the next level of hierarchy to fetch the data, and then I will be able to give this data to the processor. Any questions? Hello?
Sir, what I'm doing is to fetch the data from L2 and trying to know from where in the L1 it was stored before it was brought to L2, right?
No. Ulta bol raha hu. So processor only interacts with L1 cache. Okay.
Yes.
Processor says, I want this kind of data, or I want this address to be fetched. Now there is some information stored in the L1 cache. There is a tag memory linked to it, which has the tag location or the address of all these locations that are stored in the L1 cache. Okay. So you compare processor address with all the tag information available in the L1 cache. If there is a match, you say, okay, data is available in L1 cache. If there is no match, you say, okay, this is a miss. So if it is available, you call it a hit. If it is not available, you call it a miss. If it is a miss, you have to go to the next level of hierarchy and fetch the data from there. If the data is not available in the next level of hierarchy, also you have to go to the main main memory and so on. Is this clear?
Sir, can I say that this tag is some kind of variable name?
Tag is the address information. Tag is the address information of the data that you wanted to switch address you wanted to get the data from. For example, if you want to play a movie, so आपके operating system को पता area that the movie is available in what do you say address locations XYZ से लेके PQR तक. So your operating system knows this. Now operating system tells the processor, I want this particular address location XYZ and XYZ plus 1 and XYZ plus 2 and so on. So processor tells the L1 cache that I want address X. Do you have it? Now L1 cache has some addresses based on its capacity. It has some addresses available with it. It tells I have all these addresses. Check. So there is a comparator. So we check if XYZ address is there. It says bingo. Okay, yellow. आपको data चाहिए था. Here it is. If it is not there, it says oh, it's a miss. Let me go and check with the L2 cache. So now the same address XYZ is sent to L2 cache. L2 cache is also a small memory. It's not that huge. आपकी hard disk में data पड़ा था. Hard disk is how big a hard disk does your computer have? It would be of the order of 128 gigabytes or huge. But L2 cache cannot be that big. L2 cache should also be just 64 kilobytes if at all. So L2 cache also checks. It checks whether the tag is matching or not. If it does, it says great, I have this data. If it says no, I do not have it available, then what do? You go to the main memory. And main memory, you also say that okay, now do not just get this one address, get all the possible adjacent addresses next to it. So main memory will give you this big chunk. L2 cache will have some smaller chunk out of it. L1 cache will have a still smaller value available inside it. Okay, we will look into these concepts of page and block and line and all that in just a little while. But it is always the processor that places the request and it travels the hierarchy to get data from the hard disk. Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Now it's clear.
सर
Yes.
सर कैश का हर लाइन का अलग अलग टैग होता है ना?
Yes, because every line is from a different address location.
तो कंपैरिजन जो होगा वो फुल्ली सारे लाइन के लिए पहले कंपैरिजन होगा, देन अगर नहीं मिला फिर कैश मिस हुआ वो.
Yes. So देखो कितनी सारी पावर जाएगी, कितना सारा टाइम वेस्ट होगा.
यस सर.
So we will just look at some methods to handle this.
ओके.
Okay.
Sir, in case of cache miss, so the data from main memory will be brought directly to the processor, or it will be placed in it will be first placed in some cache and then processor will take the data from cache.
So मैंने कहा ना कि मेन मेमोरी से तो आप इतना सारा डेटा मंगाओगे. L1 L2 कैश में आप L2 कैश से आप इतना मंगाओगे, प्रोसेसर को उससे भी छोटा चाहिए. So how can you bring all this data to the processor?
Yes, sir. So, in case of cache miss, let's suppose I wanted A0 address, but that was not there inside all those cache L1 and L2. So then I went to my main memory and I found that data. So I will first keep that data to my cache, or I will directly use that data.
No. So you will have to, क्या कहते हैं, you can probably use that. So that depends on the memory controller. So that's a different thing altogether. The memory controller may say that, okay, this is the request that came from the processor. So give this data to the processor, just this address to the processor, and the remaining big part of it that you have, you write in the L2 cache. But this one small piece that I needed, you give it to the processor also right away. That can happen. That's the memory controller's job. Again, operating system and memory controllers are out of the scope of this course, but yeah, that's the memory controller's job.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, even though the size of cache is very less, the address size of cache is as same as main memory, right?
No.
I mean, since tag will play the address role for cache.
Yeah. So the cache also stores tag information so that the 32-bit address matching can happen. But the addressable locations in the L2 cache are as many as there are the physical locations.
Sir,
There's a
then
1
this will
kiloword memory, then there are 1K locations only.
this will increase the data size of cache, right?
Yes. Yes, it will.
Okay, sir.
We'll look into that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is just a quick preview. Now we'll go into details. So there are a few figures of merit linked to cache subsystem. Access time, effective time to fetch a required word. Capacity, what is the total amount of data that the cache can store, which is number of lines into line lengths. Okay, just what are lines, we will look into it in a little while. line length is the amount of data that gets moved into or out of the cache as a chunk. मैंने कहा ना कि आप मेन मेमोरी से ला रहे हो फॉर एग्जांपल, तो आप इतना सारा डेटा लाओगे, बट जब आप L2 कैश से L1 कैश में लिखते हो तो आप इतना लिखोगे, एंड L1 कैश विल जस्ट गिव वन स्मॉल वर्ड इनटू द प्रोसेसर. So line length for L1 cache could be this much. Line length for L2 cache you might say is huge, much bigger, and so on. Okay. Associativity means that okay, let us look at it like this. अभी हमने XYZ address को fetch करने की कोशिश करी, है ना? So now in your L1 cache, can you place your data of XYZ anywhere, or there are a few locations specifically designed for XYZ data to be placed? So if we say that okay, the memory can store any information, any addressed information, any data anywhere in itself, that is called fully associative. We'll look into that. But if there are a limited number of locations where we can place data, it is called set associative or direct map. We'll look into those. Okay. Then there is something called as replacement policy. Now, if I am bringing in more data, I have to remove something. So which data should I replace? What is the policy? What is the impact of those policies on overall CPU performance? And then what kind of cache is it? Is it a unified cache, or do I have separate instruction and data caches? So typically you will notice that there are separate data and instruction caches to improve the overall performance of the system. Because unified cache, you can either access data or instruction in any given cycle. But if you have separate data and instruction caches, then you can also fetch an instruction while you are fetching some data. So it improves the overall throughput. Therefore, typically in advanced systems, you will have independent and separate instruction and data caches, though there are systems which are not very high performance, which can work well with a unified cache also. Okay. So let's first look at access time. So the access time, T average over here, is the time taken to fetch the data from the memory. Now, first aspect of it is that if there was a hit, then all that I need to do is get the memory from the L1, get the information from the L1 cache. But if there was a miss, then I have to multiply probability of miss with the time that it takes to get the data if there was a miss. Okay? So when we say that P hit is 100% at the bottom, so when we are saying that any addressing that happens, that information is definitely available because operating system has already managed it like that, and that information would be available in the main memory. So we will not go beyond main memory at any point of time. Okay. But for L1 cache, L2 cache, there could be different probability of hit and miss, and that can lead to a different access time. Let us do a small example, and then we will be able to understand this aspect better. Is that okay? So let us say that there is a memory that has a cache and a main memory. Okay, memory system has a cache and a main memory. It takes one cycle to complete a cache hit and 100 cycles to complete a cache miss. What is the average memory access time if the hit rate of the cache is 97%? Now, please, I want you to just calculate this for me. और ये आप लोगों ने पेपर पेन रखना बंद कर दिया अभी अपने साथ. Please quickly calculate and tell me what is the access time, effective access time.
3.97.
397.
397?
3.97.
3.97.
Yeah,
3.97. है ना? So this is how we arrived at 3.97. T hit was 1 cycle, T miss was 100 cycles, probability of hit was 0.97, probability of miss was 0.03, and you simply come to this number. Is that fine? Any questions still here?
Sir, this hit rate for different levels of hierarchy will be different, right?
Yes. L1 cache would have lower hit rate, L2 cache would have higher hit rate, main memory has 100% hit rate. अभी हमने L2 cache की बात नहीं करी यहाँ पे इस example में, but you can also consider that there could be a situation where there is an L2 cache also, and we also have a probability of hit or miss for the L2 cache, and you can then come hierarchically down and say, okay, this is the time L2 cache will be able to access the data. Okay. So, is this clear till here? Any questions? Because then we are going to the next figure of merit, capacity. Okay. So we understand that if there is more capacity available, then what it means is that my hit rate would improve. So the more the data that you can store in the cache, the less often you have to go out to the main memory. So that's the idea. However, you know this already, that as you increase the memory size, RC effects will start to figure in. So bigger caches will also be slower. So आप P hit तो बढ़ा दो, improve कर लोगे, but T hit degrade हो जाएगा. And as the T hit degrades, your overall effectiveness in terms of access time would be lost. So while we want the cache to be as big as possible, if you make it much bigger than the optimal size, you will see that the overall profit or the overall gain that you anticipated in terms of access time, that will not happen. Okay. Linked to capacity, there is also another thing which is called as line or block. Line length or block. This is about how many words will be fetched in one go. So it is about how many contiguous addresses will be fetched in one go. Contiguous addresses means that I am saying address XYZ, then XYZ plus 1, then XYZ plus 2, then plus 3, plus 4, plus 5. And if my line length is 16, it will go up till 16. Okay. Then lines, or it would not happen that for a given memory hierarchy, there is a different line length at different levels. Lines are almost always aligned on their size. Okay? And caches fetch or write back the entire line of data on a miss. Okay? So now, again, to benefit from spatial locality concept, you would want line length to be very large. Am I right? That I know that spatial locality hoti hai when I am starting to work on a PowerPoint presentation. Then that PowerPoint presentation, if I am on slide 1 now, I will go to slide 2, then slide 3, then slide 4. Then I'm going to use the same data for a long time. So I can fetch all the data linked to that PowerPoint presentation. Jitna zyada main kar sakun, utna acha hai. That will improve my system performance. But then the fact is that if you have a very large line length, then the total number of lines that you can keep in your memory will get reduced. Are you able to see this? So I increased the line size. I said, okay, I have more number of lines as I go forward. But what happens if my capacity is limited? So इधर हमने अभी capacity को limit नहीं करा, अभी हम खाली ये कह रहे हैं that as I increase the line size, the number of misses would reduce. Why would they reduce? Because of the spatial locality concept. However, if the line size increases, then what happens? You may also have lesser number of lines available in the memory. So the probability of miss for other addresses or other programs will start to increase. Additionally, the time of a miss would also increase, because if the line length is very large, if the line length is very long, then what happens is that this component of the delay increases. So it is a law of diminishing returns over here also. So you want lines to be bigger, but you really cannot have them very, very large. There are two consequences of that. First is, which though I told that to first, and we'll cover that in just a while, that the total number of lines will reduce. And the second is that the overall time to get the data for the entire line would increase. So आपका overall efficiency खराब हो जाएगा. Okay. So this is how it looks like. So first, as you increase the line size, I'm using these block size and line length terms interchangeably. Okay. As I increase the block size, the miss penalty increases. Okay. The miss penalty increases because I now need to fetch larger amount of data from the next level of hierarchy. However, due to spatial locality concept, my miss rate reduces initially. But after some time, because my number of blocks have reduced for the given capacity, temporal locality is impacted, and therefore miss rate starts to increase again. In terms of average access time, we see that as you increase the block size to a large value, you start to see an increased penalty. So there is a sweet spot. Whenever you are designing a computer architecture, you have to try to be at this sweet spot. Okay? Is this clear till here?
Sir, if we increase the line length, so now we have more number of contiguous words or data. So this will reduce, this will increase my hit time and will increase my hitting probability also. Sir, correct?
Okay, so let me rephrase. When I have a larger line length, I have a lot of contiguous data to be written into the memory as and when there is a miss. Okay.
Yes, sir.
However, because I have a lot of contiguous data, due to spatial locality, my miss rate reduces.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So when I have long data, then the miss penalty is huge, but my miss rate reduces. Consequently, initially, I see an improvement in overall performance as line length is increased. However, miss rate also starts to degrade soon enough, because now the total number of lines that you can keep in the memory has reduced. Where if you had, let us say, possibility to keep 8 independent lines, if you've doubled the line length, you can now only keep 4 independent lines. So in terms of temporal locality, that you're running 3 programs or 5 programs, then what happens? आपके पास तो 4 ही blocks थे. So the 5th program, whenever you switch windows, you will at once see that the system is lagging. Have you experienced that if you have a lot of program windows open, your system starts to lag tremendously? Have you experienced that?
Yes, sir.
So what has happened is that there are so many lines that have been occupied by the remaining programs that आपके program के लिए जो data की जरूरत था वो बाहर ही फेंक दिया गया. So every time you want to access the new program, there's a lot of data reshuffling that needs to be done, and data needs to be brought into the memory again. And therefore your system starts to lag and the performance suffers. However, when there are only a few programs running, then you have sufficient number of line lengths available to you, and less replacement is required. Does this help?
सर ये लाइन लेंथ और ब्लॉक साइज का फिजिकल इंटरप्रिटेशन, ये जो आपने राइट हैंड साइड में 2 स्टैक्स बनाए हैं जिसमें 4 मेरे पास
स्टैक्स नहीं है, मेमोरी है.
हाँ वही सर. तो सर इसमें जो ये 4 ब्लॉक्स हैं, सो दिस इज व्हेन मतलब मेरा ब्लॉक साइज इज,
मैंने ऊपर 4 ब्लॉक्स बनाए हैं, मैंने यहाँ पे 8 ब्लॉक्स बनाए हैं. Over here, I could say that my line length was 16, and over here my line length is 32. Is that okay?
Yes.
So, how is the line length affecting our spatial equality?
Oh, वही मैंने कहा ना, जब मैंने कहा, when I took the example of presentation, when I'm giving you this presentation, then the system assumes that the next slide is going to be used next, then the next slide is going to be used after that, and so on. So my entire presentation is spatially local. When I made the presentation, I saved it somewhere. Then it was saved in one locality in the hard disk, is it not?
So what I was thinking that even if I were to take a smaller line length, so I can take the next, the locations which are nearer to it in the next line. So ultimately, the information will be in the cache. So how is it
Yeah, yeah.
affecting?
So what that means is that your operating system will have to say that, okay, because my line length is small, when there is a miss, instead of fetching one data, fetch two data, or fetch three data. So there are additional fetches that you request, that the operating system would request. And if there are multiple CPUs requesting for the same resource, then there will be more fetch requests, more arbitration required, so on. So it just increases some overhead at the system level. Otherwise, if you have to allocate 10 lines to a given program, you will anyways allocate 10 lines to a given program that the operating system will already demand. But if the line length is larger enough, then you will have lesser number of these transactions, lesser number of these arbitrations to handle at the system level. Does that help?
Yes, sir. So a follow-up question. And at a time, the amount of data which the processor can send depends on the size of the data bus that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're saying that in a request, so in that request, I will be sending this entire cache line in bursts, or I will be using, I will give one request for the one data size, and then next request for the next part, suppose the data bus size.
So see, it depends. It depends on the program and the operating system, and a lot on the policy of replacement and arbitration at the system level. For example, it could happen that there are multiple processors accessing same L2 cache, let us say, okay, and the system is operating at its 100% load because of 2 or 3 different programs that are continuously active, simultaneously active. So now what happens is that when you place a request, the operating system may say that, okay, I also have a request from the other processor, I have a request from the third processor also. So even though I have to fetch all the 64 words for you, I will give you the 4 words that you need immediately just now, and the remaining 4 I will do a round robin and give them to you a little while later. Or the processor might be configured, or the operating system might be configured to say that, okay, when I'm handling you, at least let me handle you completely in one go. And then I will let the other system wait, and then I will handle them. Okay. So there could be different policies at the system level. There is no one policy, and there is no one way that I can tell you this is the right way, because it would largely depend on the load that the load and the type of load that your processor is seeing or has been designed for.
Okay, got it, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, what is miss penalty? Can you explain it? Like, sir, miss penalty is related to like other applications.
No, miss penalty means that if you have to fetch a data, then the time to get the data is much longer in the case of a miss when the larger line length is there, because you have to get more data. अभी बात हुई ना कि the address bus तो जो data bus है वो 32 bits की है. You said I want to write 256 bits. So 256 by 32 times you have to write. इतने cycles चाहिए होंगे.
सर एक फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन और है कि अगर सर जैसे कोई एप्लीकेशन स्पेसिफिक प्रोसेसर है जो सिंगल एप्लीकेशन को रन करता है, तो उस केस में तो सर ये टेम्परल लोकेलिटी वाली बात नहीं आएगी, क्योंकि वो तो सिंगल एप्लीकेशन ही है, तो वहां पे लाइन लेंथ जितनी ज्यादा होगी.
बट सिंगल एप्लीकेशन कुड आल्सो बी वर्किंग ऑन 2 डिफरेंट थ्रेड्स ना, जो ही आपके थ्रेड्स की बात आ जाती है. इफ देयर आर 2 डिफरेंट थ्रेड्स और 4 डिफरेंट थ्रेड्स, are you able to see this? So in a processor or in a program, you could have things like branching requirements. You would have see, again, we are entering into domains of computer architecture and operating systems, but this is the topic like that. This is that kind of a topic itself. So, but there will be branching instructions, there will be threads and so many things that you have to handle. So even if it is same program, even if it is, you're talking about MS Word, you could have 4 files open with you. Is it not?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir,
Swayan?
I don't know. I'm having this doubt. Why can't we put a more number of L1 caches near the CPU? Means like we are only putting one L1 cache. Can't we put multiple L1 cache near the CPU?
Anyway, so uska matlab ye hoga that you have to find out which L1 cache also. You know, what you're saying is, Ryan, essentially that put a larger L1 cache.
Yes, means not larger. Like we have 4 CPUs, means 4 core CPUs. So we have 4 caches with them. Like
Yeah,
if we
that is
get,
already
like,
there. Every CPU has a coupled L1 cache with it.
like that you are saying that we have 4 number of lines and we have 32 line length 32. So like that, why can't we put 8 means different L1 caches, like 2 L1 cache of smaller size?
That is the same thing. Now you increase the overall size of the na. So if you have that kind of an area available with you, then you will always put a larger L1 cache. If the larger L1 cache is also able to meet your speed requirements, you would do that. If not, then what is also done is at the hardware level, instead of implementing your L1 cache with one memory instance, you implement it with 2 memory instances, so that the overall speed is achieved. That is already done.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir?
Yes, Guruveer?
Sir, if we look into the block, the data stored is of the locations corresponding to the contiguous memory, which makes the sense of spatial locality condition. But sir, how temporal locality will happen there?
Temporal locality, I didn't get your question, Guruveer. So if you have larger line length, then temporal locality would degrade, because you can have only lesser number of lines now.
It means, sir, temporal locality is nothing but the 2 blocks with same amount, same memory content. Is it like that?
No. It's like abhi jo Akshat ne pucha. For example, if you have one program, MS Word only, but you have 5 files open. Okay. So will the data of all the 5 files be available there, or because you have only 4 blocks, only 4 files can be made available there? The 5th file, when you switch to the 5th file, one of the 4 files will be dumped. That is temporal locality.
Yes, sir. But sir, since our length is more, why can't we make all the 5 files available in that 4 itself?
Because we said contiguous data will be there in one line.
Yes,
so
sir.
my line has already consumed 32 words for file 1, 32 words for file 2, 32 for file 3, 32 for file 4. Now there is a file 5.
Sir, okay. In that case, how 8 by 16 will help? It is also having the same memory size.
Yeah, now I have only 16 words used for file 1, 16 for file 2, 16 for file 3, 16 for file 4. And I have remaining, I will get 16 words of file 5. And if I have to get 3 more files, I can get 3 more files, 16 words each.
Okay, sir. So even though the size is 16, all the 32 bits will be occupied in that 4 by 32 process. Like you are saying
Line length
that
is 16. Line length is 16. So for file 1, instead of fetching 32 words, I have fetched 16 words at a time. Now when the 17th word is required, there will be a miss. I know this. And I will then fetch the remaining 16 words. But at least I am able to run 5 programs simultaneously. That is the benefit here.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we'll also look at it in just a little bit of detail later, where viruses are designed such that this ping pong starts to happen and then your overall system hangs. Okay. Now we come into a little bit of, पहले हमने preview देखा था, now we go into a little bit of more detail of how to determine if the data is in the cache or not. If the data is in the cache, how is it found? Because all the information that we have is what is the address of the data, and then how is the cache organized. How is the cache organized means, is it a direct map cache or is it an associative cache? मैंने कहा ना अभी थोड़ी देर पहले हमने देखा था that there is a concept of associativity that is also a figure of merit. So direct mapped caches were the first type of caches used. जब पहली बार cache concept आया, so direct mapped caches was the concept there. ठीक है, because we were talking about early 90s. मल्टी प्रोसेसिंग की बात ही नहीं होती थी, एक ही प्रोसेसर बन जाए वही बड़ी बात थी, एक ही प्रोग्राम रन कर लो, that was what was required. So direct map cache was the thing concept then. What it means is that if there is a particular address that you want to fetch, there is only one location that this address can be fetched to. Now, if it so happens that there are two programs running, then and they want to get the same location, then they will just fight amongst each other, and we will have a ping pong fight, and there will be a degradation in the system performance. But जब हम पहले की बात कर रहे हैं, when the caches were first introduced, at that time we only had one program running on the processor at a given point of time. Neither were the operating systems very advanced, nor was the hardware that much कि आप उसमें multiple programs parallelly run कर सको. So in those days, direct mapped cache was the one that was used. We will use that example to understand how the access happens. Okay, so a word is organized by byte bits. Okay, a block is organized by bits denoting the word. Location in the cache is indexed by the row, and tag is identification of a block in the cache row. What does this mean? This all is very cryptic to you. Huh? What this means is that if there is a given address, a total address space, 32-bit address space, then there will be 4 kinds of addresses in that address. There will be the address of the exact byte or exact word that you want to read. There will be address of the line that you need. There will be address of what is called as an index, which again is a concept of or a notion of a much bigger line or block, whatever you want to call it. And then there is a tag. Tag is the remaining virtual space for which there may not be a physical memory associated with it. Okay, let us look into it in a little more detail. So let us say there is a 24-bit address for a 16-bit cache with line length of 8 bytes. If the line length is 8 bytes, how many bits do we have of data available there? What is the width of this?
64.
64. है ना? Okay. Now I say that there are 8 bytes. At any given point of time, if there is a 8-bit processor, it would need only 1 byte. So of these 24 bits, 3 bytes will be used to select one of these 8 bytes that are available for a given line. Are you with me? Is this part clear? 3 bits for identifying which byte needs to be sent to the processor?
Yes, sir.
Now, I know that I have a 16 kilobyte memory. If there is 16 kilobyte memory, then how many lines can I keep? 16 into 1024.
2K lines.
2K lines.
Upon 8, I will have 2K lines. Okay, so I have 2048 blocks. Now, what this means is that to address any given line, I will need 11 address bits.
Yes.
So now what happens to the 10 address bits? They go into the tag. Okay. And then there is also one more bit, which we call as a valid bit. So your every cache location, how wide would it be? 64 plus 10 plus 1, 75 bits. अभी थोड़ी देर पहले सवाल आया था ना कि just to store the tag, the amount of data I have to store inside my cache would increase. Are you able to see this now? Hello? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now this is अभी हम मान लेते हैं कि this was direct map memory. Okay? कि आपका जो भी डेटा है वो आपने सीधा टैग के अंदर एड्रेसिंग जो वर्चुअल स्पेस की है, you simply put that in the tag and that is good enough. Okay? Now we look at the concept of associativity, where we talk about other kinds of associativity. Direct map मैंने आपको बताया already that there is only one specific location where a particular address will go to, and that is decided by the last few bits of the address. Okay. Now fully associative means that a word can go to any location. Okay. And set associative means that a word can go to a predefined set of locations, not any location. Okay. And which predefined set is still again defined by the last few bits of the address, but it is not just one location. So it is intended to be a sweet spot between fully associative and direct mapped. Direct mapped can be limiting as soon as you have more than one program. Is that point evident? As soon as I have more than one program, if the last few bits of a given address accessed by the two programs happens to be same, what happens? Only one of them can work properly. The other one will have to suffer. Are you able to see this? Hello?
Yes.
Now, fully associative की problem हमने थोड़ी देर पहले Shan had put forth. So what did Shan say? Oh, so we have to compare the information with all the possible addresses. What does that mean? Not only do we take more time, we also, or either we take a lot of time, or because हमारे को same ही cycle में access करना है, so time का flexibility नहीं है, so we have to give area and we have to give more power. You remember Shan had asked this question, so we have to do so many comparisons. So fully associative के साथ वो challenge आएगा. So we say that, okay, let us not be writing anywhere, but let us define two or three locations जहाँ पे a given address can go to. Now, if one program is using this one, another program is using this one, my program's requirement may probably be filled by putting my data here. Okay, so these two programs can also run fine and I will also run fine. So I do not need to write just about anywhere. I have now flexibility, more choice, but not as much choice as the fully associative also. So this is supposed to be the sweet spot between them. Are you able to see this?
But sir, for this, I need some controller.
Yeah, you anyway have a controller. There is an arbitrator there. There are so many things that you need to do. So there is already something there.
And sir, just one more question. So as the line length increases, then we will have lesser number of locations in the cache.
We have lesser number of blocks that can be written into the cache. Yes, lesser number of lines that are the number. See, then the size of the memory is same. The size of the memory, आपने हमने थोड़े पिछले example में देखा 64 kilobytes, so that is 64 kilobytes only. But if my line length went to 16 bytes, I could only then store 1K blocks. नहीं 64 नहीं, हमने कितने कहा था?
So 16 और 32 किया था ना हमने?
नहीं, in the previous slide, this example, 16 kilobyte है ना? So 16 kilobyte is constant. If my line length becomes 16 bytes, I will only be able to store 1K blocks there then. So temporal locality will suffer.
Okay, sir.
है ना? So now let's look at it as an example. A fully associative means that line number 12, suppose I want to put some line number 12 in a cache which has only 8 lines in total. Fully associative means it can go anywhere. Okay. Direct map means that line number 12 can only go into line 4. Okay. Whereas set associative may mean that, okay, line number 12 can go into one of these two lines. Why line 4? Because I did a 12 mod 8. Why one of these two lines? Because I did a 12 mod 4. I said that there were 4 sets. Are you able to see this? Hello? This is just graphical representation of what we just talked about. So in terms of a direct map cache, if there are 2 addresses, then there are 6 locations where these 2 addresses can go to. So this gray can all come only to this particular address. So if one program required location this one and another program required this location, there is bound to be a miss. So direct map cache is going to be a troublesome thing for us. This much we understand. Whereas direct map was the way things had started, because the architectures and the programs hardware was all very simple. So direct map was where it started from, but then we moved to set associative and fully associative because we wanted to, we started to observe misses happening because of limitation of the data management system. Okay. So in terms of the contents of a direct map cache, it only has data, it has tag and the valid bit that we already saw just now. Yeah, this is the same example, that if you have a line length of, let us say, 32 bytes, then how things are being organized. Okay. So this is exactly the same thing. I'm just looking at if this is adding any more information than what we have already discussed. Okay, so this is about the thing that I was already talking to you about, the ping pong effect and so on, where I said that, if like in a direct map cache, if there are 2 programs that enter into a conflict, they both want to access the same L1 cache location, and आपका जो operating system था उसने कहा कि okay, I will give 1 cycle each to both the programs. So it gave first cycle to the program, there was a miss, so it fetched that data. Then the second cycle was given to the second program. By that time, the new data for the first program had come. So the second program also saw a miss. So it requested for the data. In fact, what happens is both the programs are trying to access the same location and neither is able to access. So this is in one way, conflict misses are one of the major causes of stress for a designer. Okay, this is the worst nightmare that a cache designer can have. The solution is make the cache bigger, and as you make the cache bigger, you can also make it more associative. We will look at the associativity in a little more detail just now. Okay. So now if the memory was fully associative, then what happens? The cache tag has to be compared with every location. You understand this? This is the same thing that Shayan was asking earlier, that if I could write into any location, then a 27-bit long cache tag will have to be handled for every line. And I have to do all those number of comparison as many number of lines I have in my memory. This means there is a penalty linked to so many comparators, and with so many comparators being active simultaneously, there is also a power consumption that we are talking about in every cycle. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
So fully associative might be used somewhere in very tightly coupled architectures, but not normally. Okay, not normally. And in that sense, ना direct map बहुत अच्छा आंसर है, ना fully associative बहुत अच्छा आंसर है. And that is where we go to a set associative memory. Okay. Now a n-way set associative memory has n locations where a given address can go to. It can be perceived as n direct mapped memories operating in parallel. See, if instead of one direct mapped memory, I have n direct mapped memories, then when a request for one particular address comes, and I see that, okay, the program 1 is using the first direct mapped memory, I can put my information in the second direct mapped memory. I can do that. And now when I have such kind of, so this is called as set, that there are two sets of data available now. There are two direct mapped or n set of data available now. Considering the case of, let us say, a two-way set associative memory, what it means is that since there are two places where data could be available, since there are two places where data could be available, I will get the tag information of both the two places. And based on, sorry, tag niche wala hai. And whichever tag memories information matches with the address that the system had given, whichever matches, I will say that select that data and give the output. Are you able to see this? Now, instead of the number of lines, number of comparators, you have only number of comparators in there. Is this okay? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So what we are saying is that if we go to a set associative memory, we have arrived at a sweet spot between direct map and fully associative. Okay. Now we come to the next figure of merit associated with the L1 cache hierarchies, which is the replacement policy. So which block should we replace when there is a miss? For the direct map, there is no question. एक ही location पे आप लिख सकते थे, अब उसी location को ही आपको replace करना पड़ेगा. But when you have associativity there, that is either a set associative or fully associative memory, operating systems employ different methods. Some say, okay, I want to go to random. Some say that I would want to go to least recently used. So data which was not used for a longest period of time, let me replace that. Probability of me requiring to access that data is the lowest. Okay. So these are some results of how the system, how the results change. So you will notice that as soon as associativity increases, whether you do random replacement or least recently used, there is almost no difference between the miss rate. Okay. But when your capacity was small, you could see that there was some difference between the miss rate. Okay. What this table also shows you is that as you increase the associativity, the miss rate reduces. So fully associative miss rate would probably be a little lower than set associative. Are you able to see this also? As you increase the associativity, the miss rate is reducing. And as you increase the capacity, again the miss rate is reducing. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. So now let us say there was a miss. So if there was a miss, then write happens. But let us say there was no miss. A write would be required to be done when the processor updates the data. For example, आपने अपने word पे आप काम MS Word पे आप काम कर रहे थे. You wrote something and now you want to save that information. So when you want to save, write has to happen. So when the processor needs to do a write, a processor is not trying to do a read now. The processor is trying to do a write. When the processor is trying to do a write, there are two policies. One is write through. Write through means that मैं अगर L1 कैश में लिखूंगा तो L2 और L3 कैश में भी simultaneously लिखूंगा ही. Okay, I will definitely go to the next level of hierarchy. Or there could be a policy of write back. That okay, that kind of data that I am working on, it is so dynamic that there is no point in wasting power for the next level of hierarchy every time I am writing. This is a location I'm updating almost every other cycle. And when the system, I don't need to store this in. This is only temporary information. I don't need to store this. I will store only once I've done the final editing. So for example, you are working on a MS Paint program or some other program. What happens? You make a line, you make another line, you may draw another line, and then you may do some erasing, then you may do something else, and so on. So you do not really want to save this every stroke that you're making on the paint window. You would either save it at some intervals, or you will save it only when you're closing the file. So you're not doing write through. You're not doing, in that case, you want to do a write back. But if write back is not really very good for you, because what if the system crashes in between? You may go into an intermediate level where you say that, okay, I'm definitely not doing write through, because write through means power being consumed and my bandwidth for L2 cache and main memory being hogged. Even when my data may not be required to be saved, I'm just wasting power and bandwidth. So I'm not going to write through policy, and I'm not going to write back policy also, because agar crash ho gaya system, then all the work that I have done will be lost. So what I want to do is that after some predefined interval, I will write into the memory. Okay, so I will keep on updating the memory every now and then so that my information is not completely lost. I will not really wait for when this is replaced. Okay, so write through is always done with the help of buffers. So we will talk about buffers and we will talk about DRAMs, because when you want to do write through, essentially you cannot, you know that you came to the L1 cache and L2 cache concept simply because main memory was not able to be accessed at the same speed as the processor. So if for write through you end up waiting for the main memory to complete its write operation, then आपका पूरा cache hierarchy का फंडा ही खत्म हो गया, waste हो गया. So you will need to put in buffers whenever you want to operate in a write through manner. Is this also clear? Any questions still here? Hello?
And the old data getting updated on the main memory in the write through operation is not a problem for us, right? I mean, like if that gets overwritten by the write through.
Yeah. भाई old data को आपने अगर प्रोसेसर में रीराइट कर दिया तो old data तो anyway is obsolete now, ना? As soon as you write something in the level 1 cache, you have to put the valid wala bit जो दिखाया था as 0.
Right.
That okay, now the processor has more updated data. This data is no longer valid. If another processor asks for this address, do not give this address to them. Go to this particular processor, get the data from there, and then we will send back to the other processor. That's a challenge if you do not do a write through. So what systems typically do is they say that, okay, we will write through until L2 cache. and not to the main memory. Are you getting it? So we'll write through only up till L2 cache, so that if there is a parallel processor that is sharing the same L2 cache, it does not suffer. Uska performance na suffer kare. It also enables us to shift one thread from one processor to another when there is more load and so on. It gives us that flexibility also. So again, these are operating system and memory controller design fundamentals. We will not go into detail over here. But all those things are possible. Okay. So this is the write buffer. As I said that DRAM के अंदर पूरा write करने का आप wait नहीं करोगे. You will have a buffer. You will just dump data there, and you will assume that आपका write buffer इतना बड़ा है कि DRAM के अंदर write कर सकोगे आप. Now again, the nightmare over here could be that suppose the DRAM frequency was 1/100th of the system frequency, and all that you were doing is writing data into the DRAM, writing data every cycle. You were generating data and you were writing data every cycle. Now in that case, your write buffer has to be at least 100 words deep. Your FIFO has to be at least 100 words deep. Otherwise, what happens? After 4 cycles, you will have to stall the processor because DRAM has not yet written into it. Are you with me? So the sizing of this buffer is something that a system designer has to be extremely careful about. Okay. So
Sir?
that, yes.
Sir, what exactly data coherence means, sir?
Data coherence means that I have the same information available in my L1 cache as is available in my L2 cache as is available in the main memory. So it means that data is coherent across all the different hierarchy, the entire hierarchy. However, when you are writing something from the processor, you have an option to not to write back or to not to write through, and in that case, data will no longer be coherent because the data in your processor will be fresher and updated, and the data in the L2 cache or main memory would be obsolete, not valid. Now, when another processor requires the data, in that case, the other processor will place a request to the memory controller. Memory controller will check the valid bit. It will say, oh, the data is no longer valid. There is another processor that had updated, so it will request the processor to now write into the L2 cache, and then from that L2 cache, the data will be written into the second processor. Okay, but this coherency, so arbitration, coherency controller, everything you have to design when you design the computer system over there with the memory hierarchy in place. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of this lecture, and we will start with DRAMs in the next class. The main memory we will now start to look into. So this lecture is largely a bridge lecture, and to give you some concepts, because I know that not all of you are going to become memory designers. Many of you may want to become computer architects or system architects, and this lecture was meant for that intent also. Okay. So if there are no more questions, we can call it a day. All the best. See you on Friday then.
Sir,
Yes, Anuj?
sir, I want to ask you regarding the project. So, so my project is on design test to identify bitline coupling. So, sir, for that, do we need to start with 60 SRAMs, or sir, we should start with 80 SRAM?
So your project is for 80 SRAM, na?
Sir,
Bitline coupling and 80 SRAM. Yeah, 80 SRAM में ज़्यादा relevant है because वहाँ पे ज़्यादा coupling आती है bitlines पे.
Okay, sir.
Okay. You directly go to a dual port, a full dual port 80, not the read port वाला 80.
Sir, 2RW जिसमें एक मेरे पास में
2RW. Yes, 2RW.
BLB1, BLB2 वाले.
Yes.
And W. Okay, sir.
हाँ सर मेरा प्रोजेक्ट भी वो था, मतलब डुअल पोर्ट एसरैम पे से वर्ड लाइन कपलिंग फॉल्ट वाला. तो सर उसमें मतलब विड्थ क्या मान लो, मतलब जैसे पर बिट सेल की वर्ड लाइन की मतलब ये कैपेसिटेंस दी रखी है, तो कितना कॉलम्स मान लो और कितना रोज मान लो?
आप 1 के कॉलम्स मान लें, 1000 कॉलम्स मान लें, एंड मतलब 1 के 1024 कॉलम्स मान लें। रोज के लिए आप रोज की आपको क्यों जरूरत है?
रोज
अगर
के
है
लिए
भी,
ठीक है। हाँ,
अगर
वर्ड
है
लाइन
भी
में।
तो आप 256 या 512 मान लें, रोज की जरूरत नहीं होगी आपको।
वर्ड लाइन में नहीं पड़ेगी।
ठीक है, तो आपको पूरा रेंज देखना पड़ेगा। आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि अगर अगर नंबर ऑफ रोज, नंबर ऑफ कॉलम्स 16 हैं तो क्या हो रहा है, और नंबर ऑफ कॉलम्स 1024 हैं तो क्या हो रहा है। What is the impact, and whether it is worth catching it, whether you can diagnose all of it, or only some range you can diagnose all that. ठीक है? Yeah.
Sir?
So all these coupling faults, coupling fault वाले जो diagnostics हैं, इसमें the slope of the, because you're talking about coupling, the slope of the signals is also important. Do you realize that? So you may need to design the right driver or the word line driver also. So you have to size it up also. Okay?
सर जैसे मतलब जैसे ओवरड्राइव अगर करवाना है वर्ड लाइन को, तो उसके लिए सर डायरेक्ट वोल्टेज बढ़ा के दूं या फिर उसके लिए कुछ सर्किट बनाना पड़ेगा?
Make a charge pump.
अच्छा सर, ठीक
है, make a coupling capacitor there.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Sapna?
No, I'll let Shan finish. I mean, like, we were there for a meeting, right? We mailed you yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so हम लोगों का जो हाई स्पीड एसरैम एरे प्रोजेक्ट था, तो उसमें सर कल आपसे डिस्कस किया था, आपने कहा था कि 255 जो एक्स्ट्रा रो हम लोगों के पास रहेगा, उसके करस्पॉन्डिंग लीकेज को हमें 100 पिको एम्पियर को सेटिस्फाई करवाना है। आई लीक
पर बिट सेल की बात थी ना,
तो एक सिंगल बिट सेल के लिए आई लीक को 100 पिको एम्पियर रखना है, या सर पूरा 255 मल्टीप्लाई करके टोटल 256 रोज के लिए हम
सिंगल बिट सेल के लिए, सिंगल बिट सेल के लिए।
ओके, देन दैट मेक्स सेंस। यस,
ठीक है ना
sir?
Yes.
Sir, our project is compare the low voltage 6080 SRAM cell without and with assist schemes. Sir, initially we thought we have only constraint for current, so that we followed the cell ratio and pull-up ratios as 1.2 and 0.5. But Biswa sir in the meet told that we have to qualify SNM, I mean 6 sigma for SNM in the case of read.
Yeah, ये तो हो गई ना, this has to be
Yes,
done
sir.
ना,
Yes, sir.
otherwise how will the cell operate? आप read करोगे, data corrupt हो जाएगा, that is not good read ना.
Yes, sir. Sir, for this, so that we got a cell ratio of 1.6. I mean the width is like 0.432.
That is huge.
Yes, sir.
That is huge. ठीक है, आप देखो what you can do about it. Increase the length a bit, do something else. See, 430 nanometers is a huge size for any SRAM. Very, very huge size.
Okay.
Cannot keep that big a device.
Sir, then what can be the threshold value for that? Sir?
No. Try to keep all device sizes below 250, 280 at most. No device should be larger than 280 nanometers in the SRAM cell.
Okay, sir.
In terms of width. Okay. So 430 तो बहुत बड़ा है.
Yes, sir.
जितना छोटा होगा उतना अच्छा है. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, also we have to do for read and write assist scheme. Sir, initially we don't have any assist scheme, so that we will get the device sizes. Sir, do we keep the same sizes for all the assist schemes, and we have to compare?
What's the benefit of assist schemes then? The intent of putting The intent of putting the assist schemes is to gain density, na?
Okay, sir. So I thought like if we go with the same sizes also, then we will get less bump voltage and then greater SNM.
But, what do you do? What do you do with more SNM? You anyway are qualifying 6 sigma with the larger sizes. So up 10 sigma qualify karke, what do you gain? Nothing.
Okay, sir.
You gain area. You recover area from there then. है ना?
Yes, sir.
Area is diamond for SRAMs. Everywhere else than VLSI, area is gold. But for SRAMs, memories, area is diamond. So recover area. No two questions about it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
सर और एक क्वेश्चन था कि जो एसएनएम हम लोग का सबसे ज्यादा इफेक्ट होता है जब 2 रीड राइट के केस में हम लोग उस चीज को चेक करते हैं. तो सर हम लोग वही एक थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन में था कि हम लोग को उसके लिए चेक करना है क्योंकि या फिर जो स्पेसिफिकेशन अचीव करना है हम लोग को दैट इज नॉट इवन पॉसिबल 2 रीड राइट में अगर चेक करें. इसलिए आपने वन रीड राइट के लिए बोला।
तो आपको वन राइट इसलिए दिया है बिकॉज हाई स्पीड के लिए वन राइट इज व्हाट इज कॉमनली यूज्ड. I want you to learn that and experience that. The benefit of one read, one write. Okay. Two read write is not typically used for high speed. Two read write is used only when you need a real dual port memory access.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yes, Akshat.
Sir, I think there is some issue with Eldo on the new server. I
Yes.
already mailed the IT help desk, but there is some issue regarding the memory requirement, but it didn't happen with the old server ever.
Okay. So what did the IT department say?
Sir, they said to try it now, but it's not running now also.
Okay. So we can. Are we able to use the old server?
Sir, that is very slow.
Sir, very slow.
Okay. So I would say just follow up with them. IT thing. If you want to keep me in CC, I can also follow up. I can also just escalate it to me in CC. Let's see what can be done.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All the best. Okay, guys. Thank you. Bye bye. See you later.